Boom! According to that, I am live. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight. My name is Hiko Simon. It is 10:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time, Sunday evening, as it is every week. Great to see. We've already got heaps of people in here. In fact, I'm actually just going to open up YouTube Studio and put that over here because I can't actually see actually, I can see 7 people there in StreamYard. So yeah, great to see you all here already. Just setting up. It's been a busy day, just running around doing stuff. Yeah, thanks to everyone who joined for the live stream last night. That was a lot of fun. What's going on here? Keep existing file. Let's just, sorry, technical issues. They are happening. I'm trying to shut down another application. Okay. Shut down now, please. No more? Jeez, this is generating lots of error messages. Let's just force shut down this, which might cause a problem with the stream. Task manager. Come on. Processes. Where is it? Here, VLC Media Player in task. Gone. Good. Okay, all resources now focused on this. Let's see who we've got in here. We've got right in there at the beginning, as usual, DJ Sunny Side Up. Thank you always for being there. And yeah, great to see you last night. Had a lot of fun with the mix last night until I got banned for Eurogliders. Heaven must be there. Pretty sure that's what triggered the censor bots, but still that mix came out really well. I've actually, yeah, I met a DJ last week who recommended Mixcloud, so I'm trying to sort of, it gives me a purpose, you know, having to do some, setting myself a goal of getting some really nice mixes. Yeah, it was really nice to set up a set last night that I really prepared for, getting all the house music in. Kind of being a bit conservative, trying to get it all clean and no mistakes. But when it was over, sort of cutting loose with the mashups was really fun. I've also sort of started a thing where this software, StreamYard, actually keeps recording video of the live stream, although I can download it from YouTube if I wanted to. But since it's there, yeah, I actually use that to cut out clips of the mashups that I like best, and I put that onto Instagram, which is a nice way to let people know, you know, in short clips of what's going on with the music and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. I've been posting that lately. So thanks to everyone who kept me company last night. Seb, great to see you second in the chat, right in there at 10 o'clock, 30 minutes early. I think that was right when I tweeted. Yoni, we've got Yoni in here first to say moi, and moi right back at you, as of course I said. We've got Believe in Yourself already in there early. We've got Dan H. Yes, everybody, especially to Yoni. No technical, well, kind of technical features. There's always mild technical features. I was just setting up a little bit late, just running around, you know, evening stuff. But yeah, great to see. Seb saying, hi, Lysander45. Glad that you could make it. You got to head out for a walk. But yeah, no, thanks for spending the time with us. To appreciate it. We've got Aaron, our moderator. Good morning to you. Hello, Indiana. Good to have you with us. Who else we got? 8 likes. Well, we're kicking it last night. I don't know what happened last night, but all of a sudden the likes on the music stream went from like 3 to 18. I don't know how that works, but I do appreciate it. That was great. Yeah, Ida, great to have you in, Ida. Welcome. Good morning. I think. No, actually, no. Good afternoon. You're in Denmark, right? Good to have you with us. Knickknack95. Hi, UK, 2:30 p.m. UK time. Good to have you in here, Knickknack95. Nice always to see an unfamiliar username. I don't know if you're just logging in with a different username or you are new, but welcome to the chat. You get to participate. That's part of the fun of this. I go through news and topics that interest. You can ask me questions or topics that you want me to talk about. People do. In fact, people make a game out of getting me to chase squirrels, which I'm easily distracted by throughout the live stream. That is a feature and a bug of the show. But yeah, the weather today, by the way, Tokyo is going in, it's now finally getting into the nice autumn, relatively stable. It still is hot. Like yesterday was like still 30 degrees and humid. Like it was still summer temperatures, but it was a hot summer day in New Zealand, not like Japan. So this is like what summer sort of should be. That said, today the high temperature was 22 degrees Celsius. Sorry for Fahrenheit people, i.e. Americans. I can't do the conversion on the fly, but today was actually like in the morning. I went outside. It was like when I went for a run, it was like 15 degrees. So yeah, I went out in a singlet, but actually it was cooling me down when I was running, which I haven't experienced in a long time. So that was super nice. Actually, made it really easy to go for a run today. Yeah, I've been enjoying the runs. I was kind of a bit bummed out today because there was a Tokyo Legacy half marathon, which is like an official half marathon where they actually shut down roads and stuff like that. I applied for it, but I'm trying to think, did I apply for it and miss the window, or did I miss the lottery for it? But either way, Joseph Tame got a 1 hour 41, which is super fast. I ran a 1:35, but I will never run that again. In fact, no, you know what? I ran a 1:33. But I nearly died. That was like 3 degrees Celsius in Seattle. It was all flat. Like I would never, I don't even want to run that fast ever again. The fact that I run so much, like, yeah, I would be comfortable not beating the time that Joseph Tame set on that run. But I'm looking forward to, geez, next March, getting to run around in the streets of Tokyo for 40 kilometers. I'm looking forward to participating and getting it done. I'm not looking forward to the pain that I know will happen. But I'm fit and I'm healthy, so touch wood, all of that, want to keep that way. I've been running a lot, doing the Muay Thai a lot, had a friend visit from Seattle. And yeah, by the way, people who visit Japan, sometimes people say, hey, let's hang out for lunch or whatever. Sometimes people who know me say, hey, let's go for a jog, and I'll take them around the palace or something. I had a friend I took to my Muay Thai place, and he did a beginner's lesson of Muay Thai and a run. Super fit guy, of course. In fact, I think he's running a marathon, actually. The Yokohama Marathon is it next weekend? So crazy people out there. But yeah, you know, it's another way. If you ever want to hang out on a running tour of Tokyo, I'll give you one. So you can always DM me. If you want to get in touch, you know, Instagram and Twitter are lately the ones that I like. You can contact me on Facebook too, but I don't like Facebook. I'm trying not to use it. So yeah. 15:38 Danish time. Good to know. Good to know. Whenever I say Danish time, I think it's time for a Danish, which is a positive association. Although I get that it can probably bring up problems. I mean, thank heavens there's not a country called beer or something like that. Turkey time. I've just realized there and Hungary time. I guess there are countries, yeah, indeed, that bring up these issues. But yeah, Danish time sounds great. It makes me want to go grab a coffee. So yeah, thank you for joining, especially in the middle of your Sunday afternoon and morning, depending on where you are in the world. Let's go into the topics. I've had a busy week this week, so I was not keeping up with NHK news. I mean, the big news is, of course, that we're having this time next week is the Japanese national election. I mean, here we are. It feels like 10 years we've been just watching. I mean, there's nothing to do. All the debate to be had about a president. I mean, there's one presidential debate, right, for the United States. They talk for what, 2 hours? And they pretty much ran out of things to debate and talk about in that space of 2 hours. There's really nothing else that you sort of need to know. You could literally call a presidential election in 2 hours, learn everything that you need to know, and have the election the next day. But for some reason, they make it last for more than 12 months. The election cycle in America is just so enormous. In Japan, they decided to dissolve the parliament and call a snap election. They can call an election anytime. In the entire, you know, they've got a year-long window, and they just decided 2 weeks' notice. Hey, we're having an election in 2 weeks, national election. Everyone is running. Everybody has to suddenly develop a complete campaign platform, get their people out, do all the fundraising, do all the campaigning, and it has to be over and done with in 2 weeks. And Japan, I mean, not a small country, 126 million people. I mean, America is 400 million, but it's still, you know, Japan is an enormous democracy. One of the largest and richest countries in the world, shows that you can have an election not just between two people, but between thousands of people running for the hundreds of positions in parliament on 2 weeks' notice and get it done. With caveats like all democracies, you know, Japanese democracy isn't perfect. You wouldn't say that policy debate is necessarily that thorough, but it's at least as thorough as anything I'm seeing happening in the United States. So that is, to me, a good thing. I mean, for all the noise cars and all the annoying things about the campaign vehicles and all the shenanigans about elections, it's over in 2 weeks. You know, there's no point at which, you know, people have to start like going crazy like happens in countries with longer election cycles. So I do think Japan sets an example that there are possibilities to do things differently and possibly better. So I'm looking forward. This time next week, the election will be over. Almost certainly what's going to happen is the LDP is going to win, but they're going to have a reduced size. The real question is how many seats will the LDP lose, because they're mired in scandals, which I'm about to talk about. The opposition, will they, I mean, again, still convinced that they're being funded by Richard Pryor, who in the movie 48 Hour, Brewster's Millions was given $20 million in 1975 or something, when that was worth like $100 million, and told he had to get rid of it all within like 2 weeks in order to get a bigger inheritance. So he spends it on a political campaign at one point, where he sets up a political party campaigning for people to vote for none of the above. Spoiler alert, but it works. I'm convinced that the Japanese opposition is a real-life version of Brewster's Millions. It's like they're campaigning to make people not vote for them, which they should be winning by default, given how terrible the government is. So anyway, we'll have all the mysteries will be answered, but it's hard to think. It's hard to understand how the government can survive the current situation. But then you look at the opposition and you see, and that's pretty much the whole situation here. So I'll talk about politics. We'll talk about goings on in Japan and all of that. But yes, in Denmark, it's always Danish time. Best enjoyed with coffee. Where do I buy my ticket? I want to fly there now. Seriously, I would love to visit, actually. I must admit, I've always wanted to go through that whole arc from like maybe Belgium, certainly the Netherlands, and going sort of up through Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland. That'd be a really cool trip. I actually really seriously considered learning Swedish. Not that it's at all the same language as Sweden, although I understand it is possible for you to converse and everything. I considered that, but then realized it's only one country with not a very big population, and Spanish you can use a lot more. So yeah. Anyway, back in Thomas Morris, long time no see, dude. Great to see you, Thomas Morris. Elon is in Pennsylvania, bribing Pennsylvania voters, but he is non-political. Elon's definitely political. I mean, he's dancing, he's a background belly dancer to Donald Trump, and paying what, $45 million a month or something to the campaign. So he's all in with that. I've said it a million times. The SpaceX, the rocket launch, the landing with the chopsticks, the incredible. I would be the biggest fan. I love Twitter. I'd be the biggest fan of Elon Musk if I didn't know a single thing about him and he just shut the hell up. For Christ's sakes, dude, like, nobody wants to, he's got these Teslas, which are great, fun, cheap cars that everyone would be buying, except the guy is just an enormous doofus. And, the rednecks who agree with his politics don't want to buy electric cars, and the left wings who want to buy electric cars don't want to buy it from a raging, maniac. And so he's just sabotaging his own, he drives me crazy. He's one of these, he would be a hero. He would be a hero to me if I knew nothing about him. But I do know about him, and he's a dick. So, Thomas Morris, welcome to the chat. Tea and crumpets. I mean, nothing wrong with that stuff. Or, indeed, cream teas. In Cornwall, geez, the cream teas, they were amazing. Odie Jr., long time no see. Great to see you, of course. And I do love that avatar. As always, love the old Cavalier King Charles. Odie Jr., indeed. You can build a portal to Denmark with Legos. Yeah, I remember the Lego. Lego has just done amazing things. I don't know if the Lego is as big right now as it was when I was a kid, but when I was a kid, it was enormous. I remember living in Singapore and like Lego Land or Lego World. There was like a global tour of Lego that came to Singapore, and yeah. Swedish rap sounds really cool. I think I've seen one or two clips, which I wasn't that convinced of. I mean, I know that Swedish is an official language in Finland too. I've heard of that. I've heard that there are some islands that Finland owns, but which are kind of like Swedish speaking. So yes, indeed. Okay, it's like Toyota Shi. You would not recommend visiting Billet. It's like people making fun of Aichi again, which is something I definitely do. Yeah. Indeed, it really looks like Elon is like he watched Iron Man and thought, I want to be like that guy. And it was just a terrible idea. Elon also said that he doesn't trust computer programs. So yes. Anyway, I am going to jump into it. Topics. After years of annoying everybody with these tour guides going around Tokyo, first dressed up as Mario and having like selling it as real life Mario Karts. And then because of all the negative publicity, as well as the violation of trademarks that it caused, Nintendo sort of sued them. So they changed the names, although everyone still calls them real Mario Karts. They are just go-karts, like racing go-karts, which for some reason that I don't understand, for all the regulations about cars in Japan, apparently go-karts do qualify as road legal. And so these things are driving around and they're doing tours. And I must look, I will admit, in dark, vulnerable moments, I think it would be kind of cool to drive around Tokyo in a go-kart. But that said, when you see these trains of tourists, occasionally with people, getting in crashes and ignoring the traffic lights and blocking off the road and, dodging pedestrians and doing all sorts of stuff. They basically just piss off everybody. I mean, driving in Tokyo is already stressful enough. I love driving. I hate driving in Tokyo. There's a reason. I imagine I was going to own like 8 cars in my first 5 years in Tokyo, but it never made any sense. The parking, the cost, but also just the getting out of Tokyo on the highways is just so stressful. Driving anywhere outside of Tokyo is wonderful in Japan, and in fact, you need a car. So I don't drive much. The idea of getting into all that mess in go-karts, and on top of that, there have been tons of crashes and tons of accidents, including accidents where people have been hurt. So after years of people saying, like, how is this even allowed? How are you allowed to take tourists around in go-karts on public roads, and cause chaos? Police have finally arrested operators of the go-kart businesses, ostensibly for allowing, for gathering evidence over years that they were permitting drivers to use these without proper Japan valid driver's licenses, without international permits or Japanese licenses to drive around on the streets. And while sort of publishing this as a kind of a victory against these troublemaking go-karts, a lot of people on the internet say, how was this legal in the first place? Like, you waited all of this time to get them on allowing people to drive without a license. Just arrest them or just ban the go-karts, like, to begin with. So, anyway, the police are finally sort of cracking down on them, although kind of a question whether it's really in the right way. Of course, Japan is a country where a lot of things that are illegal are kind of really, in fact, illegal. For example, you've got, gambling is completely illegal, yet pachinkos are de facto casinos that are on every street corner. And, just because you go and get a plastic trophy that you exchange at a third-party shop, they look the other way. There's complicated historical reasons as well why they tolerate pachinko, but Japan probably has. So Japan, in a country where gambling is illegal, has among the highest rate of gambling addiction of any developed country. And it's because they just look the other way. Same thing, I suppose, you could say with sex services. Prostitution is illegal in Japan, yet Japan also has huge sex services because they only outlaw a very specific biblical form of sex, and everything else, without reading the Bible too closely, everything else is legal. So, Japan has all of these contradictions. They allow go-karts on cars, they allow casinos, they allow all sorts of stuff, even though the laws kind of say it shouldn't be there, and it's just sometimes flies in the face of common sense, which the go-karts is definitely an example. So, yeah, more people in the chat. We've got Lara's rocked in. Great to see you. We've also got Tadom, Netflix Sound. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining the stream last night as well. Did appreciate that. Seb was banned from a go-kart place because he missed the instructor's signal. He had a rage problem or something. Well, that's good to know that the instructors have rage control issues on top of everything else. You were banned, was that actually driving on the roads? Or I assume that was driving on the roads, not going in a racetrack. I've done indoor go-kart racing before, and I must say it's really fun. It's really fun. It's something I did in New Zealand. I've never done in Japan, but the full body cramps and muscle pains I had after, like, you're so G'd up with adrenaline when you're doing it, you don't realize how much effort you're using your whole body. Like, it's a real thing, like racing like that. But driving around on the streets, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Maybe credit to you for getting banned from the. I mean, does that make you better or worse, getting banned from the people who are so bad that they're being banned? I don't know. Maybe that makes you best not think about it too much. But still, I kind of wish I'd done it secretly. But there we go. A little indoor racetrack. Yeah, I definitely got in trouble with indoor racetrack. I busted up a few carts. So there you go. It's not illegal unless you convince someone in power that it's not, and the people in power not getting kickbacks and all sorts of other deals around that as well. Yes, so moving on. This German couple have been causing some. I haven't had time to really figure out how this German couple became like an authority on all things wrong. You know, the voice of Gaikoku telling Japan, "Kore ga hendai o Nihonjin," which is the title of an old TV show where they used to get foreigners to say to Japan what was wrong with Japan. But this couple was interviewed, and it was widely broadcast, and they expressed various opinions based on being newly arrived tourists from Germany, and they had two big opinions that generated a lot of discussion on the internet, both the Gaijin sphere and the Japanese sphere. The first was, as Germans, they were really surprised that they couldn't use English effectively to communicate with people everywhere, and they found it very frustrating in restaurants trying to communicate with staff when they expected that they would be able to communicate in English. And they really think that there's a problem Japan has with that, and they really need to make sure that everyone speaks English, because otherwise they can't communicate. And all the Japanese are saying, like, you're Germans. You're Germans. Why are you trying to make us, if you're trying to make us learn a foreign language, why English? A lot of foreigners also pointed out, in fact, a lot of foreigners said that you're Germans. The Japanese said, this is Japan, which is also fair enough. Get a phrase book. There are 126 million people here. Buy a phrase book. It'll only cost you $5. I don't know. Some people would expect maybe more solidarity and sympathy on maintaining national identity, perhaps between the Germans and the Japanese. But there again, I guess these are generally, they're both respectively okay with not being too tied together on this sort of thing. I suppose it's one thing for that to have like British people and Americans show up and, geez, what's with all the people here not speaking English, and where can I find a McDonald's? But at the same time, it's actually more legitimate, I think, coming from people who look to English as a lingua franca, which, as someone who made the effort to learn the local language, I've just turned on, whenever I wave my hand like this, I'm supposed to have this turned off. It actually activates like face following, which I just deactivated. AI cameras, they're going to take over the world. As someone who learned the local language and took the trouble to do that, English just is a lingua franca in a lot of situations, as much as I think it's good to make it at least some sort of a token effort. But yes, German people, Japanese, they must learn better English. The other big statement that they made, which is further down here, is they also said they also found at the convenience stores, all the portions of all the food is wildly inadequate. They needed to buy like 4 times the portions of everything. This is worth opening the comments for. Internet reacts. They complained that they need to buy, for all the portions that are being sold, everything is in 2 small portions, and they need to buy at least 4 times as much for any meal, i.e. servings and so on, and bentos and snacks and so on in convenience stores. For an onigiri, they need 4 onigiri. For a ramen, they need 4 ramen. The portions in Japan are far too small. The first reaction offers some constructive life advice, saying that's why you're all so fat. And then there's other people talking about smelling and making life choices to try just eating less and thinking about the world and what's wrong with you people, and that's probably because you went to 7-Eleven. And some people thinking, that shrinkflation is a thing. A few years ago the portions were bigger, and they are getting smaller, but not that much. But yes, the main thing is that's why you're all so fat. So anyway, advice from Germany, maybe German Americans. Apparently they're Germans, but they were complaining, for what it's worth, about the convenience stores and not about the McDonald's, which is also a problem. McDonald's will screw you up in Japan. The menu is identical and it is cheaper, but you have to pronounce everything with Japanese pronunciation. If you go into McDonald's and say, first you ask, where's a McDonald's? No one will understand. You have to say Makudonaruto. You have to break up all the syllables, which no one can do. And then you got to go in and order, you can't order a Big Mac and a fries. You got to order a Big Mac and furai do potato. And if you say it, fried, I'll have some fries and a Big Mac, they're going to panic, probably call the manager. So everything is a challenge, but yeah, shrinkflation is a thing, but probably not as bad as in other countries. And I found that funny, so that's why I included it there. Going back into topics of the week, I deal with in Twitter. It's kind of funny. I think what happened? I think I saw something about cases where Japanese nationals were being attacked in China. In fact, the case where the children were murdered. And I sort of said, well, the government over there sponsors, drama shows and documentaries that basically demonize Japanese and make them appear literally as like inhuman sort of demons, like over and over. And if nothing else, I mean, I don't think most Chinese people think that Japanese people are really, demons. But, you got a country of 1 billion people. You're going to have some mentally ill people that will take the government propaganda encouraging people specifically to hate Japan today and seeing it as no different than in the past. And they're going to do crazy shit. And the Japanese government is like, see, like, will you cool it with the anti-Japanese propaganda? To which I get reactions on Twitter and so on saying, well, Japan's just as bad. NHK is always being revisionist. To which I said, have you ever watched NHK? Because NHK in Japan is considered to be quite left-wing and quite, and this is the thing about Japan. You can have all these perspectives. You can have revisionists. You can have people that say Japan did nothing wrong. You can also have, the camera, following me. Stay in place. Go. Oh, I've got to turn this thing off. Anyway, technical issues. It's never going to let me go. Okay, I'm just gonna sit here. So they're saying, effectively Japan is just the same as China. And all the hell are you talking about? I mean, the thing is, in Japan has, a far-right conservative party, revisionist nationalists, and a communist party and far left wings, and everybody can say whatever the hell they like. And what I'm pretty confident of is that my life, there's no social credit system where every action that I do is being monitored and scored by the government. We're not being spied on. Japanese government doesn't give a crap. Most people in Japan, just the whole My Number system is all about the fact that still probably I would dare to say more than half the economy is based on cash businesses. And the Japanese government is trying to address that to get everybody to pay tax. So, the degree of, control by the government and monitoring by the government in Japan is just not a thing. So, whereas Chinese who live in Japan and are living the relative freedom and actually engage, and particularly if they engage in activist activities over here and they get together with people, including, for example, Uyghurs, against whom there are still, last anybody heard, 3 million in concentration camps and a campaign of genocide being waged against them in the far west of China. China is having relatives call up their relatives in Japan, and the government's calling up and saying that we're going to put your relatives in jail if you keep doing stuff in Japan. They're basically complete 1984. So the idea that Japan's just as bad as China, that people throw out just to be contrarian, is absolutely ridiculous. Japan's not perfect, but it's it still is completely different to the sort of authoritarian state that China is, and look, nothing against Chinese people, and I actually would love them to have the same sort of freedom that people here have. But the argument, any sort of minimization or what about, Japan's just not a bad, it's just rubbish. This whole thing about how China is harassing and intimidating and terrorizing citizens, and not just in Japan, of course, in Australia, in Europe, in Americas, Canada, everywhere else as well. They're sort of doing this. Japan doesn't do that. Japan's not even close to that. This idea that Japan's like, brainwashing everybody, just absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, anyway, into the comments. Visiting US is really expensive right now. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I really felt like, a third world exchange student on my last work trip to America. It was bad timing. Eric Bailey monitors and scores everything I do. Behave accordingly. Joke, but is it? I must say, there's something about social media, which is that obviously I don't use my full real life name on social media. Which is just in Japan, people in Japan don't use real names or even show their faces. You look at Japanese social media profiles, they're pictures of cats or landscapes and profile names of like, numbers and letters. I use a handle name, and I'm quite happy with this. And people who meet me, I'll tell them my real name. But at the same time, you always work on the basis: one, try to not use your real name, and two, even when anonymized, behave in a way that you'll be okay if you're outed. You sure you self-moderate a little bit. So I operate on a basis that I'm happy to be scored. I'm not bloody Johnny Somali or anything like that. But yeah, at least you can trust the cooking oil in Japan. Not joking. You can trust the cooking oil here, at least last that I checked. Yes, indeed. Good to have you in here, Eric Bailey, by the way. And thank you. I think we can start the show now. Believe in yourself. Well, yes. Places where people concentrate. Slightly bad taste joke, but yes, I get the point. Kuroki Hitomi's birthday was October 10th. She just turned 29. Who is Kuroki Hitomi? And whoever she is, she was born just before I got here, which is itself kind of disturbing. So yeah. Hey, Demaster, good to see you. We are a bit of a lovely day here in Tokyo. I hope you're having a good day where you are. Speaking of a beautiful day, I went out running. Tried a new running course actually in the start of the week. I ran like 18 kilometers. This is the run where I decided to throw away my Hoka Bondi 8 shoes because these shoes are supposed to be cushioned. And this camera is driving me crazy. I'm going to turn off the auto tracking. I hate it moving around. I set the frame. I don't want you to see all the garbage I keep out of frame over here. So let's turn that off. And please, no hand signals or anything anymore. More settings. I do not want why are gesture settings turned on? It must have done a firmware update. Okay. We're now back where you can see Tokyo tonight and the background that I want you to see. I went for a run, so I like to go for runs, and I've got my carbon plate racing shoes, my Nike Vaporflies. I've got a 2 and a 3. They're both really fast, wonderful shoes. They're like wearing springs on your feet. They're not good on the feet or the legs, but they make you go fast, and I love those shoes. But I needed a pair of shoes. They're pink. They're not really made for walking around in. I don't wear them to work. So I needed a pair of shoes I could wear to work, and then on the way home during the week, I can go to the gym and run around the palace without having to carry an extra pair of shoes. So I got a pair of Bondi Hoka. So I saw the nurses were all wearing when I was hospitalized in America, and a lot of runners were wearing them as well. They're famous for being cushioned and comfortable on feet. They're for narrow feet, and I've got narrow feet. But it turns out they're just not for my narrow feet. I always get blisters in the midsole because it was just weird in that part of the foot. Never felt comfortable. I thought if I keep wearing them, maybe I'll break them in. But after a year of wearing them, and according to my app, logging over 1,000 kilometers running in them, I decided after this run, where I ran along a beautiful river, actually, north of Tokyo, had a great run, 18 kilometers in them. I just decided to throw them out and burn them, set them on fire, and go out shopping for new shoes. However, on that run, I did spot my favorite car looks-wise. I actually drove one of these in America, and it lived up to the hype and the disappointment. That it is a spectacular car that you get wonderful attention everywhere. The BMW i8, it just looks like a car from the future. Even though it's like more than 20 years old, I still think it's one of the most beautiful, cool cars in the world. I stop when I see one of these things. I drove a red one, but I love this color, the silver and the blue. I love it the best. It looks like a spaceship. So I saw one of these, and I really, really want BMW. I'm waging a campaign. BMW, re-release this car, same body, just like the DeLorean, frankly. Re-release it. But just get a Tesla electric platform on it with the crazy acceleration and the all-electrics. It does have a tiny electric engine in it. The thing about this car is that the performance driving it doesn't drive like it looks it should. It's kind of disappointing. It's got like fake engine noise. It's not like a sports car. It drives kind of like my dad used to have a BMW 5 Series, and it drives kind of like that, like not bad, but it doesn't take off like it looks like it's going to. They just put a proper electric motor into this thing and re-released it and updated the dashboard and everything. This would be like, I would buy 4 of these. Anyway, so BMW, please re-release the i8. It's a beautiful car, and re-release it with a modern platform. No response from BMW, but I'll let you know if they do that, and if you can all get one for free. I'm going to speed up because, as usual, we are 11:10, and I've gone through 3 stories, and I haven't even got to most of the actual proper stories. It is a very pretty car indeed. Aaron, not a fan at all of most most current car designs that are coming in. Recently, think they look yuck. Yeah, I kind of know what you mean. They're kind of like this kind of crossover type design. They're all starting to look the same and kind of boring. And yeah, I'm kind of with you. There aren't many really sexy regular cars at the moment. But yeah, Do they still make 2024 models of the IA? I didn't know that. I want to look that up. Do they still look the same? I mean, I still think that body shape is amazing. But anyway, all of that said, we have 20 minutes left, and I have like so many topics and absolutely no time, so I'm going to speed up. Fukumimi, who is often, he likes to basically follow the foreign informer, inform the journalist and informed person community, just pretty much to point out all the things that they're doing wrong and all the assumptions that they're making are wrong, including the assumptions that are generally like, oh, the opposition's surely going to do well this time, and he just likes to throw this out kind of as a light troll, pointing out that LDP 35.1% support, up 3.8%. The Komeito, their coalition partner, 3.7%, up 1.4%. The opposition CDP, 8.4%, up 1.8%. So the LDP is actually surging ahead faster than the biggest opposition party, and all the opposition parties together don't even come up to half of just the LDP. So even if the LDP like collapses in support, they're still like, there's no real world here where this party defeats this party. This is like, less than 2 weeks out from the election. The only thing that's significantly changed is that none of the above, the Richard Pryor party, has dropped 10.9%. So people are now making decisions to support parties. But of those, they're overwhelmingly supporting the current government, corruption scandals and money scandals and everything, more than they're trusting the opposition. Everyone's putting out their manifestos and saying what they can do. And everyone's like, you guys are just crazy. I'm just going to stick with the LDP of the none of the above. But it's neck and neck, none of the above and the LDP. And everything else is just a mess. So, anyone who's expecting a dramatic switch in power again in the next election, not really on the cards, as Fukumimi there is pointing out. I set up a Mixcloud. I talked about that, so I'm sharing that in the information, including last night when I did the recording of the house thing. So if you want to listen on just a music app and download music, I think you can download anyway. That's on Mixcloud. So there's a link in all of the music streams if you want to check that out, as well as they're on Twitter. So when I threw out the Hoka Bondi 8s, I went and got these Fresh Foam 1080 shoes, which are like super cushion New Balance shoes. I love New Balance shoes. My first running shoes were New Balance shoes years and years ago. I even run in 574s, which are 1970s style running shoes that are now considered fashion shoes, but they are comfy and I love them, and I'll even run in them. Although I don't want to make them too smelly for work or anything like that. But I want to get a pair of shoes that I could wear to work, so they don't look too running shoey and they don't have like white soles that I'm going to scuff up too much wearing everywhere. And they have to be comfortable to wear walking all day, but also comfortable running. So I got these and I love them. I love them. There's actually a great blue pair of these that I was originally thinking to get, but when I saw the khaki ones with jeans, these look really sweet. And yeah, I mean, I had these Nike Pegasus shoes, which are Nike's like standard jogging comfortable shoe, and it like made like squeaking and crunching noises whenever I stepped. It was like Police Academy with Michael Winslow making the noises to distract people. It was I threw those away after like 1 or 2 months. The Hokas I tolerated for a year, but I never grew to like them. Run one, I ran around the Palace, and I got my second fastest time ever around the Palace on the break-in run on a recovery shoe. I've run around the Palace in carbon plate shoes, really fast ones. This is a soft, light jog, protect the knees recovery shoe, and I was just having so much fun in them that I took them out for a run today. These are wonderful. New Balance just makes really great shoes, and I've seriously given Hoka and Nike a try. There are other brands, of course, out there that I might check, but New Balance is just great. So, Kerberos Tenshi, glad that you made it. I know that you said that you might not be able to make it yesterday, so glad that you could check in. What else is happening here? Yeah, executives in Japan are now up to 16% of executives in top listed firms, which are an increase of 2.8% over last year, but only 3.4% of female executives actually internally promoted. They're usually through external appointments, which itself just shows that still the career progression to being, generally speaking, boards of Japanese companies are dominated by insiders. There's positives and negatives to that, but I think it's a positive. I respect that Japanese executives often know their businesses as well as the workers do, which is something that's very different to European and American companies, where the executives are often just execs that have MBAs and bounce around between companies. But the fact that there is still apparently not a path for women to go through the traditional way through the company and to end up as executives still highlights the challenges there, even though the number is improving. A kind of interesting case where an Australian was arrested for attempting a violent robbery where he insists he jumped onto someone's balcony and was shouting at someone who he thought was having a medical emergency, "Can you get to the door?" Where the Japanese person misheard it as "I am robbing you" in Japanese. So they're insisting, "Goto dayo," go to a door. He heard, so he said, "Go to a door," which sounds like "goto da," which is this is a robbery. Can you walk? Kane doko da? Where's the money? This is what they're saying. I mean, honestly, if he's an Australian shouting at you, I'm surprised. I was actually trying to think of Japanese things that you could say that could be misheard, and I came up with "cross crikey kantaya," which would be "krosu gurai kantanya." It'd be so easy to kill you. I mean, this is like what a real excited Australian would say. So I'm coming up with suggestions for the defense on typical Australian phrases that could get you arrested for a misapprehension that you were going to violently rob and kill someone, based on everyday Australian. So you're welcome. I am half Australian, so I consider myself fluent. But there we go. Hello Kitty, Thomas Morris. Big write-in campaign happening for Hello Kitty. You're all on notice that yes, get out and vote. You can post your vote for Hello Kitty. Just get it in. Time is running out. Aaron loves Asics. They've gone downhill. I've heard good things about Asics. I'm just not excited about Asics. I love my New Balance shoes, but people who like New Balance, who like Asics, rave about them. So yeah. Black Tengu. No, my pleasure. I mean, dude, you had your third kidney stone attack, right? Which I'm very sorry to hear. I had two, and I was terrified, like for months. Really took me a year. I came to the conclusion after not having more attacks, so I could just settle on lots of this, 2 liters of this, one of these per day, basically. But yeah, I changed my whole life around not wanting to not have that ever again, and so I was happy to pass on a Cliff's notes of the things that I picked up. But yeah, all the best with that, because they are horrible. I mean, people say it's the closest thing that a man can experience to giving birth. Women who've had kidney stones say it's comparable. Holy shit, if that's what having birth is like, no, thank you. It was awful. So yeah, hope you're feeling better. And anytime, of course. And welcome into the chat. Great to have you as always. Make Hello Kitty great again. Damn straight. She's actually an English human girl. Apparently that came out a couple of years ago, and the whole internet became traumatized at the same time. Campaigning in Japan, people, bodyguards and rallies and, planes and interviews and fundraising dinners. Meanwhile, in Japan, I don't know who, he was like the number 2. He was in the running for becoming the leader of the biggest opposition party, effectively the leader of the Democrats, for Japan a couple of weeks ago. Literally 2 weeks ago, he was in a leadership election where he came second, and here he is on a street corner handing out leaflets and being ignored, as everyone is doing. I mean, this is again, Japanese democracy is a mess, but you have to love it, right? You have to love just how people, and even when you have Abe getting shot and stuff happens every now and again, still fundamentally all these politicians have to be out there. They have to be doing stuff like this. You almost feel sorry for him. Almost. He's a politician. Remember, he's a politician. You can't feel too sorry for him. But I could just imagine. I don't have the sound turned on, but I'm imagining that there's sad violin music playing while this is going on. And you have to appreciate that. You have to appreciate that they're at least working. They're working for it a little bit anyway, every couple of years. North Korea, on top of sending 6 million shells, so Russia was running out of shells to fire artillery at Ukrainian houses and to steal Ukrainian land and to kill innocent Ukrainian people. And they were running out of artillery shells to do it with. And so you think, oh, thank heavens. So maybe they'll just have to, say that, okay, we've done enough here. Let's just stop this whole crazy invasion thing. And North Korea says, hey, wait a minute, we've got 6 million shells over here laying around. We can give them to you and you can keep firing them at Ukrainian people. And Russia says, thank you for the 6 million shells that we are now going to load into our cannons and fire at Ukraine. And then, by the way, we've had 1 million casualties. We're literally, our army is running out of people that we can send into the war. And we're not going to be able to invade and kill people in Ukraine anymore without more people, because we're sending so many people. 1 million of our soldiers have died while trying to kill Ukrainian people. Can you help us with that, North Korea? North Korea's, we'll give you 32,000 people to go over to Ukraine and help kill Ukrainian people for you, Russia. How does that sound? That and 6 million shells. And Russia is like passiva. So I don't know. And you know what? I posted this and someone said, I feel so sorry for these people. They're slaves being sent off to war by their country. And yeah, I feel sorry for North Koreans being forced to do things by their government. They are on some level victims. But I feel more sorry for the innocent people that they're going to go and kill. Who do you feel sorry for? They shouldn't be there. Russia shouldn't be there. What the hell? So again, this whole thing that no one should have any part in helping, and remember, America's and NATO are not sending troops. We're not actually fighting in Ukraine. We're just giving Ukraine the means to defend itself against these assholes. The idea, how is that even controversial? I mean, you got Russia and you got Iran giving them drones and missiles. You got North Korea giving them artillery shells and people to keep the invasion going. And we're barely giving Ukraine what it needs just to hold them back and not be overrun by these people. How is that even political or controversial? I don't understand. But anyway, I can feel sorry for these people. But I also, honestly, if it's between them and innocent Ukrainians, I hope that the innocent Ukrainians go home and these people don't. Anyway, enough about that. Interesting post here. Interesting things about Japan. In Japan, there are broadly 2 dialects, Osakan dialect and the standard Tokyo dialect. And when people from Osaka and Tokyo are talking, everyone inevitably gets drawn into the Osaka dialect. Is this something like in your country? Japan has dozens of dialects, and if you go to like northeast Japan, literally no one can. Even the different prefectures up there, they can't understand each other. Let alone no one can understand them. Let alone Kyushu. Let alone Okinawa. There are dozens of completely different dialects in Japan. There are not 2. Now Osaka is prominent because of TV, and it's true that Tokyo people like to badly imitate. It's like a fun Irish accent. It's like the accent of comedians. So imagine lots of upper class English people badly imitating Irish accents. That's what it's like when Tokyo people imitate Irish, which they totally do when they're talking to them, because it's a fun sounding dialect, but it drives them crazy, which makes Tokyo people do it more. But yes, Japan, a country of 4 seasons and 2 dialects. There are neither 4 seasons and there are certainly not 2 dialects, but there you go. Love the recording I did last night, so go check that out. Hey, Sainted Sir, glad that you can make it. Good morning, New York City. We're getting the whole world represented, which I do appreciate that. Lysander 45, the UK version of dialect bias, according to foreigners, the UK only has Oxford, Cockney, and West Country accents. Yeah. People aren't aware of northern accents? Northern accents are a thing. I mean, Jesus. I must admit, I can handle like Borders accents and even a bit of Newcastle and shit. But Scouse, I have recent Scouse family members, and I love them, and they're cool people. I think I can't really tell because I can't understand a word that they're saying. They're lovely people, but literally, when you stop asking them to repeat themselves 3 times, I just agree with whatever they're saying. Liverpool, it's a hell of an accent. But you're right. I think to American West Country, basically West Country pirate accents. Oxford, Cockney, and pirate. I mean, that is a pretty good summary, I think, of a stereotypical. And there's the Dick Van Dyke accent, whatever the hell that is. Maybe that's one of the Channel Islands. I never figured that out. Anyway, some they use glottal stops for all consonants. My sister lives in the UK, and I remember being on a phone call with her, and she stopped saying, she started saying T with like her throat. Can't do that. I'm like, well, what did you just say? So, she's fully localized, British citizen. So, she's allowed to do it, but still funny. Anyway, Italy, a country of 2 accents, exactly the same, right? Two, probably 3 seasons and 2 accents in Italy, just like Japan. Anyway, moving on. UN apparently is pressuring Japan over Japan like not allowing separate surnames for married people. I don't know that this is like a global standard or this is anywhere in a global human rights charter. What's happening is that activists in Japan are trying to put pressure on Japan by going through UN institutions to have them question Japan in the United Nations, saying, why are you violating people's human rights, not letting them have separate surnames, which there's overwhelming public support for. 63% or something, 65% of LDP supporters and 80% of the general population think just let women, keep their family names if they want to. It's an increasingly popular thing. Generally speaking, the LDP is still conservative on it. They still think that the people who oppose are generally more within the LDP, although even the majority of LDP supports it. So apparently in the LDP, Japan was questioned over and over about it. Japan just responded, this is something that requires internal domestic consensus before we can do it. Unfortunately, putting pressure on Japan this way does just have a way of making it it's like on the whaling, when the UN is like saying, hey, Japan, you shouldn't eat, certain types of food. Japan says, well, how about fuck you? How about that? Even though most people in Japan don't eat whale meat and don't really give a shit, being told by the United Nations to change your dietary habits, eat more hamburgers, the middle finger just comes up, and there is a slight risk when you look at the reactions to this. While the majority of Japanese, are for allowing separate surnames, they're like, what the hell is the UN doing? Pressuring Japan over this. It is a domestic thing, which is a fair enough thing. So a bit weird that came up. Interesting one. Apparently a commissioner in charge of the foreign language division of the NHK, which had the rogue Chinese newsreader suddenly go on a rant declaring that the Senkaku Islands belong to China and Japan covers up its war history and all this sort of stuff. Went on a rant in Chinese, and apparently without anyone noticing, and they let it stay up there for a day. And then they found it. And so then to take responsibility, the commissioner resigned and was immediately rehired by NHK. And all the people who were outraged that this happened in the first place, because everyone thinks that the NHK is like an anti-Japanese left-wing conspiracy hive. It's like a Pizzagate TV studios to the right wingers in Japan. So NHK immediately fired the person responsible for foreign language broadcasting and took a whole lot of measures. And as soon as they did that, they said, okay, now we're rehiring him. And then people said, how can you rehire the person that you fired over this whole scandal? And they said, well, もう、was it 辞任した理事を再雇用してもいい。辞任して責任取ってる。So he resigned. He wasn't fired. They said that, yeah, it's totally fine for us to rehire the commissioner. He already took responsibility by resigning. So it's all done with. And this is why some people would say it's better to go back to the old samurai days, where when you took responsibility for a screw up, you'd disembowel yourself. So, no takesies, backsies. Nowadays, when it's just bowing deeply and resigning, they rehire you the next day. It's not really the same as, chopping your own head off. No, they never actually went that far. Normally, that you get partway through. You've seen Shogun, right? A good person can do 3 cuts, but normally you just do 1 or 2, and they feel sorry for you, and then someone else will finish you off with the standing over you with the big knife. That's how they used to handle, foreign language broadcasting responsibilities back in the samurai period. But we are not in those days, and NHK is not that place. The Ministry of Agriculture is saying that rice is going to stay expensive for the foreseeable future because of demand and because of hot weather, and totally not because they've been deliberately reducing output to basically increase prices to keep farmers sort of rich and supplies low. Comments on the internet saying, yeah, I've noticed the local rice growers all drive Mercedes-Benzes. And basically the Japanese agricultural collective and the Ministry of Agriculture is, in fact, I've just realized, actually, this is the Farmers Union. It's not the government, actually. So it's not the Ministry of Agriculture. I mistranslated that. But basically, they're fixing things to keep themselves rich, which is fair enough in a way, but everyone can kind of see through it. And they're like, screw you farmers, and they should just allow open imports of foreign rice if they don't like it, if you ask me. Talked about the Germans. So Kyrgyzstan should go back for the highlights. These apparently 2 German tourists somehow got captured and said that Japanese don't serve large enough portions and should all learn English. To which Japanese responded, learn Japanese fatzos. We have editorial from the Mainichi that we must encourage, repopulation of rural areas and address concentration from people in Tokyo. And the key reason that there's concentration in Tokyo and depopulation of rural areas is that women are leaving rural areas for Tokyo, and they must be encouraged to go back. And it says that they must be encouraged to have higher paying agricultural jobs and career opportunities. And a gender equality perspective is also essential. You think they buried this in the middle of the whole thing. I mean, again, supply and demand. Rural areas suck. That's why they're escaping to Tokyo. Tokyo rules. It's better. They're coming here. Why are you going to punish people for fix what's wrong with the rural areas and maybe they won't leave? Speaking of fixing what's wrong with the rural areas, the government is talking about raising the minimum wage from, in some prefectures with a low cost of living, as low as like 900 yen an hour is the minimum wage in a lot of prefectures. In Tokyo, it's just over 1,000 yen. But the new prime minister is talking about raising nationwide minimum wage to 1,500 yen, which right now is like, what, $11? It's still cheap by most developed country standards. But a lot of people in small businesses saying, oh, that would destroy my business, that we can't survive without low wages, which is kind of part of the problem at the moment with wages not keeping up with inflation that we have in Japan. 2 more minutes, speeding up. Case of doing it wrong. A judge on assignment at the Financial Services Agency is being indicted on insider trading, which is definitely not how you act as a judge at the Financial Services Agency. Insider trading actually was not even a crime until like 15 years ago. In fact, it was something that like the investment houses specifically were allowed to do and did. It wasn't made illegal specifically until quite recently, actually. Like the stuff that Wall Street, the Gordon Gekko movie, that stuff was like totally normal. Daiwa and Nomura used to that was their business model, was to show, to give inside information to favored customers on, IPOs that were about to be launched so that they could go in and get the stock early. And they did this with politicians. They did this, this was how they acquired so much power in Japan and why the government didn't want to regulate it. So completely corrupt from the beginning. Supposedly they've been doing better, but when the judges themselves are, getting inside information and investing based on it, yes, doing it wrong. Other stuff, I mean, you talk about, you had the Trump assassination attempt in America. Was that 1 or 2? I can't even keep up anymore. Anyway, people keep trying to shoot him. A guy in Japan apparently the other day drove up in a K car up into the LDP headquarters. He crashed his car into the LDP to the security barrier. He threw Molotov cocktails. He had 20 1-liter polyurethane tanks of gasoline. Apparently that's a bad thing. You don't put gasoline into polyurethane tanks. They'll like leak and it'll become like an immolation situation. He had 20 tanks of gasoline and Molotov cocktails he started throwing at the LDP headquarters. He didn't hurt anyone. It seems like he just caused a lot of a mess and he got arrested. It turns out that this would-be self-immolating suicide bomber Molotov cocktail attacker is a peace activist affiliated with left-wing groups that are anti-war. And some people from the right-wing community on the internet point out immediately a lot of Japanese peace groups are very active in supporting other peace groups like Hezbollah and Hamas and, stuff like that. So the fact that they produce people who go and decide that a political campaign is a good time to go and throw Molotov cocktails at the party that you think is not pro-peace like you are. Complicated stuff. The internet, of course, had things to say about how an anti-war activist could be the one throwing Molotov cocktails. But there we go. When is the next 2.5 Voyages with Victor? Asks Aaron. Good question. I ping him every day, although it hasn't come up. Let's just say next week. I'm going to ping him and see if he's going to be okay for next week. We will announce on Twitter, but good point. I think it actually should have been today. Oh, generally we say the last week of the month, which would be next week. So maybe next week's a good time. Plus it'll be an election special anyway. So yeah, thank you for the reminder. I'll get on to Victor about that. Foreigners hit a record for 3.5 million residents in Japan. The largest category are permanent residents, like me, 902,000, up 1.2%. However, also we have other categories of foreigners, like, for example, what do we have? We have Skilled workers on specific work visas up nearly 21% to 251,000. Technical interns on the controversial trainee visas are up 5.2% to 425,000. So yeah, it doesn't have a breakdown by nationality, but foreigners, when I got to Japan, there were only 1 million of us, and now there's 3.5 million of us. So, the foreign population of Japan definitely increasing a lot. Yeah, in Germany, anti-fascists are also pretty aggressively fighting for peace. Yeah. Fight for your right to party. There you go. Yeah, anime voice actors are worried about having their voices imitated and ripped off by AI, which is legitimate. There's also a debate where some people don't want even like fake voices to be made so they can keep their jobs. That's more tricky. Interesting one here from Rochelle Kopp, who herself says that she has to ask for gluten-free meals, and that can be difficult. But apparently a vegan passenger asked for the vegan meal on a Japan Airlines business class flight and got a banana, which, come think of it, I mean, as I point out myself, they could actually use the same solution for Hindi, kosher, halal, gluten-free. They could give the banana to everybody. I mean, bananas are awesome. I'm a big fan of bananas. Second to last one, we've got the Reiwa Shinsengumi, kind of Japan's most likely to be in a car found outside of the LDP headquarters with Molotov cocktails party. Their poster, this poster is hilarious. This is an official poster of this party. It says, Kuki ga yomenai baka ni shika kono kuni wa kaerarenai. Only an idiot who can't read the room is the sort of person who can change the country. Which is true. In a way, but if that was true, and that's what he's saying. He's saying I'm an idiot who doesn't pay attention to to the room, and I'm the only sort of person who could change the country. So by that logic, the LDP are smart, astute readers of the room. I mean, I see a flaw in that logic, but there we go. Here's an LDP high profile candidate campaigning. Send me back into Parliament, while people holding above him the amount of money that he embezzled from political donation parties. 1 hour, 1 minute, 37 seconds. I'm done with all the topics. People say, Clever says, you're being too harsh. Germans make good cars. I mean, they said they're not bad cars, but I don't get the chain for that anyway. But all of that stuff, it's been fun. The after party is there. I can't pin. Can I pin the comment? Maybe I can pin the comment. I don't know if I can pin it, but Aaron's got the link there for the after party. I'm going to go set up. The after party will be your requests. I did my big prepared mix last night. I've got another one I'm going to record this week, drum and bass. So just stick around for that. If you're gonna head back. If you want to hang around for some tunes and request some tracks, do that. I'll be up in about 2 or 3 minutes. Switching over stuff. I'll see you in a moment. But yeah, have a good week, everybody, and great to see so many people in the chat tonight. Really appreciate everyone participating. Remember to like. Remember, I don't monetize these videos. If these ads are on here, it's not my fault. So all I ask for is likes and peanuts in return. See you all next week, hopefully for 2.5 Voyages. Remember, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter are the main things nowadays. Hiko Simon on everything. And boom, have a good week, everyone. Peace. Any string.